Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and it all seems to be kicking off yet again after the Los Angeles Thieves announcement yesterday. Envoy had a fair few words to say on some of the issues with OpTic Chicago last year, and a tweet from one of the OpTic Chicago players potentially hinting that Envoy was talking about them when discussing these attitude problems. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm really upset with the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, this one Scraps thought it was kind of interesting. Can't burn a bridge just to light my own way. Difficult to say what's going on with a number of these pro players right now. Of course, the Paris Legion spot's very much up in the air. Same with that Chicago spot with OpTic Dallas seemingly just around the corner. But well, still, so many leaks all across the park right now. And this is what Priestahh has to say about some of the leaks. As the scene goes, leaks have actually killed all Call of Duty announcements. Absolutely tragic. Of course, that is kind of the case with Los Angeles Thieves LAG just before that. The team got confirmed onto with the rumours coming out just a few days before the confirmations come in. Thought this is interesting from Priestahh though. The real question is, who is the amateur player getting paid hundreds of dollars of roster to leak them all? Players have to know due to building rosters, obviously. The players are going to know, but which friend of a pro is getting paid to leak these rosters? I'm not sure Priestahh is quite on the money here. Like, Craig goes on to say, reply, like, he's not paying anyone. He'd be in debt if he had to pay anyone to do this type of stuff. Like, he just hears them, right, from maybe amateur players or, like, pro players themselves. I don't really know. But I imagine there's a lot of babbling mouths here with the Call of Duty scene. When one player finds out, they maybe tell someone, that person tells someone else, then everyone gets to know behind the scenes, certainly the players do, but also a load of the amateur players as well, and then Crone hears from, I imagine, so many different sources behind the scenes. So it's probably not just one individual getting paid to leak rosters. It's difficult to keep things under wraps behind the Call of Duty community. If any organisation manages to do it, that is very impressive. But it's tough to do with the amount of people involved in some of these moves, and the amount of pro players, I imagine, as well, that do like to talk about things behind the scenes. Of course, it's the pros talking about it, I imagine, first of all, that even gets to amateur players if those are the ones giving up the intel at the end of the day. Even though maybe some of it's coming from pros directly, it is somewhat tough to say. Thought it was kind of interesting though. This then from Nature. OpTic fans, come show Envoy some love. We'll take care of him, I promise. Congratulations to Drazah as well. No one more deserving of a starting spot in the CDL than him. I'm fired up about this lineup, says Najot. Think we'll have a real shot at contending for a title next year. So much more confident in this lineup, it seems, Najot, than last year's lineup, at least how that was finishing off towards the end of the season. Of course, this is the roster we looked at yesterday. Kenny, Octane, Drazah, and Dylan Envoy. Very interesting team, of course. Envoy having been like, this guy for OpTic the last couple of years, looked like he was going to be the next up during the Los Angeles Thieves, one of the big rivals, is certainly a pretty big surprise, and that there was a fair bit of discussion right out, at least, this was just tried. The only battle of LA I care about is Gunless versus Envoy, because there was a bit of drama between those two back in the Huntsman days, and as Arcitys says as well, I miss those Huntsman vibes. We can talk to each other like that if you would like to. Simp and reply, I'm trolling. Please don't, I will get off. But yes, still, Envoy definitely had a fair bit of friction with Gunless and some of the other players on that team, I imagine, when Chicago Huntsman was a thing a couple of years ago. It seems like that was also the case this year on OpTic Chicago, because I was kind of intrigued when it came out in the video yesterday, the announcement, that Envoy was like, yeah, this kind of lit a fire under me, like I'm coming with vengeance for next year. I was kind of surprised that he got to say that. Of course, maybe Thieves are using that to manufacture some nice storyline here with OpTic for next year, but it seems like some of that is certainly going to be the case, because last night on the flank, a fair bit of discussion from Envoy, and of course, like, there's so much context here. If you guys want to watch the entire episode, I'll leave a link down below for you guys to check out. But these are a few clips of what Envoy has to say about the situation last year over at OpTic Chicago. First of all, the issues with it, okay, they stopped streaming, they should actually get better, right? In theory, right, they can focus more on practice, but apparently not the case. They even cared less, they got worse as a team, and really talks about how it was an entire team culture that they didn't really even try too hard in practice. They were good in scrims, but actually converting that to matches was very difficult, barely ever going into like custom lobbies and stuff to test anything else about from sometimes some trophy spots. They weren't watching the extra VODs they should have been. The only VODs they're really watching are of like the Pro League matches, not of like their own scrims back and stuff like this, not quite the extra push that was being discussed before the World Championship. So for many reasons, Envoy seems pretty frustrated with the OpTic Chicago squad of last year. The team culture as a whole, knows that he could have done better individually, but certainly seems very happy to be on another organisation and get the chance to prove maybe to the OpTic guys themselves that, they were missing out on his 100% capacity.
Last year. So Envoy, I guess last year, what were some of the problems that you guys ran into? I mean, for me, from the outside looking in, it's just a lot of just like little plays, like a lot of teamwork. But coming from you, like, what do you think?
I think generally speaking, we had very bad teamwork, super inconsistent. To add on that, like I mentioned, like Drazah really having a lot of passion. I think we didn't have enough passion this year from all of us, myself included. I'm not throwing that on anyone specific, but I think a lot of daggers too, bro. We lost in a lot of ways, and like you lose hope after a while. Like going into champs, even with COVID, it's like, dude, can we play?
Yeah,
you know?
that
like,
must have been scary as like the COVID.
Yeah, like Matt and Bruce are getting on. Like, dude, is this practice even worth it? Like, I'm gonna have to scrim with, or I'm gonna have to play with Troy and Jordan. Like next week.
Yeah.
Like that, the loss
insane.
of hope was like the hardest thing throughout. I chalked a lot of scrims last year because teammates did not sleep. Not even go to sleep, or went to sleep at 5 a.m. and then I'm an hour late, or I'm chalking the whole first set. You're chalking both sets, and it's just so important to have like good habits. Have a healthy lifestyle, because bro, end of the day, like it's not just on like you're not doing it to yourself, you're doing it to like your whole team,
your teammates. Yeah, your teammates.
I understand it when it's like a newer player, right, Tom? Like Cellium, like we had to kind of deal with that a little bit, but that was like literally the first team I'd ever been on, so fine, I understand that. But like when there are players that have been in the league for like 3 or 4 years, I find that to be kind of unacceptable.
But Cellium is also a sponge. You tell that kid one thing and it's fixed instantly. Like even
and a lot
in
of
game
players are like that.
Same thing, man. Like I pretty much did that this year. I think like all of us did with like the no streaming thing. But like we literally stopped streaming and got worse. It didn't make any sense. We cared less, got worse, and it was probably the worst thing for the of the year.
I can't believe it over there.
Jesus, dude, we were in shambles, bro.
Who specifically cared less, if you don't mind me asking?
All right, dude. Back to
I'm not
challengers
gonna put it on
with
one
you, man.
person. It's everyone, dude. It was everyone. All right?
Oh, okay.
So of course it's difficult in situations like this to give the entire context, so I wanted to do my best here just to bring up some of the discussion that has been had on Reddit to kind of give you guys the holistic picture rather than just those individual clips. But this was some discussion right here, so Envoy talking on the flank about how OpTic never watched even Respawn VODs this year, and for better context as proof escaping the reply, Zuma replied to this and said, yeah, this is pretty much how he perceived the situation. If you watch the whole thing, it was a whole team culture, not down to one player. Envoy said they were godlike in scrims and talked about mistakes after the scrims, so never really felt needed at times, but should have been more proactive in doing more, everyone included. This is the thing, you look at Atlanta FaZe, those guys have 4 great players in the world, but also they have 4 coaches and analysts, right? They have guys that are getting them on the right track. I think Envoy even might have gone on to say that like Sender was the one doing his best really to get these guys in the right situation, but it wasn't really helping, right? And that is a team culture thing, and that is something that maybe Envoy was frustrated about and felt himself kind of slipping into to some degree, which is kind of interesting because it's not really a surprise after the discussion we've heard about some of the players on this organization for the last couple of years, even on OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, for example, and OpTic Gaming before now in 2019 in Black Ops 4, for example. This also thought was kind of interesting, so Envoy went on to explain that like it was kind of, he felt like what he said was maybe out of context somewhat, didn't mention, but we watched every match VOD, just not scrims, right? That's the extra push. So they were watching VODs, but just like the match VODs and actually other teams in their own matches, but not their own scrims, right? They weren't looking back on mistakes they were making in their own practices, and maybe that's something that, could have been done a fair bit better, right? And that's the thing, like, it's kind of surprising in a way, all this stuff that Envoy's saying, that they're actually as good as they were. Like, they're the second highest team KD in the league behind FaZe, but never really had the results to back it up, and of course they had some pretty tragic and heartbreaking losses, but clearly the work ethic and the work rate, nowhere near what you might have expected, and it's not really a massive surprise, let's be honest. So anyway, all this stuff is said from Envoy, and then Dashy comes out with the following. People are certainly reading into this, and I think understandably so. Dashy comes in with a kind of like eyes emoji, the monocle type thing, thinking, okay, exactly what's going on right here. Now, this may be indicating that Dashy kind of feels that some of Envoy's comments are directed towards him. We've heard that in the past, in terms of like work ethic and work rate and turning up on time, and to be fair, maybe that's like formal, right? Because we know that even on the OpTic Gaming team back in 2019 in Black Ops 4, it was often Karma that was late, and he was like sleeping in and stuff like this. But to be fair, Dashy has certainly had his fair few critics on how he conducts himself in terms of, practice and putting in the extra time and these types of questions. The likes of Crimsix, TP, Slasher, Kenny. I mean, now Envoy's coming out to maybe implying a similar thing. Of course, Envoy is not throwing anyone particular under the bus, but it's just kind of interesting that Dashy is maybe implying here that he thinks that maybe some of those comments were directed towards him. Maybe he thinks that's fair, maybe he thinks it's not. It's somewhat tough to say, but of course, it does immediately spark a nice little storyline here for next year with Envoy versus the OpTic guys, whatever it's going to be over at OpTic Dallas, trying to prove that indeed, you guys were falling short because of the work ethic, and now on this other team with Octane, Kenny, Drazah, and I'm sure probably a much better work ethic team, and it's just kind of interesting, right, with Scump and Formal, teams like that have certainly had problems and concerns about that over previous years, and since a few years ago where they were just dominating without maybe trying too hard because the skill ceiling was just so high on the OpTic Dynasty squads, maybe it's somewhat different nowadays, right? And it seems like Envoy's pretty frustrated about the situation that he has found found himself in. Of course, this is the overall squad. A lot of these guys are ex-OpTic now, right? Because you got Natured over there as the CEO. Octane, of course, an OpTic back in World War II. Envoy just left. And then Kenny and Drazah technically played for OpTic Gaming Los Angeles when the brand was kind of with Immortals in Modern Warfare. So very interesting team to keep your eyes on going forwards. And I thought this was an interesting storyline as well from Jack Lucky. Hex let Arcitys go last year and FaZe went on to win the World Championships. Could Envoy do the same thing this year? Of course, we've seen it with many players, right? Like the likes of Octane, when he got dropped from that team, he went on to do better things the next season. Crimsix as well kind of got dropped after Black Ops 4, won the World Championship next year. So it's happened a few times. Maybe the pattern is in Envoy's favor here for this upcoming year, but very interesting stuff, no doubt. Wanted to just touch on this real quick before we finish off the video. The Vanguard beta, of course, is ongoing right now. Scump says right here, what we thinking of it so far. Definitely intrigued to hear your perspective in the comment section below. Probably something we'll talk about in more detail later today, or, you know, whatever's going to happen later today. We'll see, and then I'll make a video. These maps, man, though, says Mork, so certainly some question marks about the way the beta is right now. Haven't got the chance to play it yet. Apparently, it's not really worth playing it, at least on PS4. It's not the prettiest thing, so I guess I'll wait for PC, even though I might be away, so I might not even have the chance. But it doesn't really seem like I'm missing all that much, because as Zero says, I know it's just a beta, but I don't see them changing too much for the release. But wow, some of the stuff they've added to this game has automatically talked for public matches. An attachment that makes me flinch when I'm shot. Nice try. I'm just a hater, says Trey Zero. And just to finish off with this, I thought was kind of funny. Call Legend trolling at Clayster. So they come up with this blog here to do with the new game. Hotel and Redacted. Don't look down. Unlike Gather 2, the boundaries on these maps are unforgiving, as one can easily step off the playable area and die instantly. Watch your step on their outskirts, especially if you're a Call of Duty League veteran. Trust us, even the best players in the world can and will fall off the map. But it's been a fair bit of time since Clayster fell off the map now. I think it's probably way back in like March sometime. He fell off against Los Angeles Thieves, I believe, on like a raid search and destroy. But yeah, maybe this season will certainly be the one for Clayster to get back to his old ways. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm. If you enjoyed this content, other people like you may enjoy this content as well. And I'm growing the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you much as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.